We used to wrap his presents in lead foil so he couldn't peek.
You mean Santa wrapped them?
Oh, of course, dear.
Hang on, you're telling me that in this universe where aliens, superheroes, interdimensional monsters, and immortals are real, that it's still a stretch for Santa Claus to exist? He's just gotta be there. He's gotta. And you know what? I'm gonna find him. So that's what we're investigating in this happy little holiday season Watchtower Database video. Is Santa real in the DC animated universe? Sorry kids, of course Santa is real in every universe.
Showtime, everybody!
Engagement.
They can talk all they like.
That means everything.
Don't forget that.
You heard it, folks!
Did you know that the 1997 Shaquille O'Neal Steel movie has 3 DCAU actors in it? First, there's Shaq himself, of course, who had a whole Static Shock episode dedicated to him. Then there's Charles Napier, who voiced General Hardcastle. And third, Ray J. Yeah, the main kid from Steel was played by Ray J. I had no idea, and I bet you didn't either. Wait, what? Ray J isn't in the DCAU? Oh man, that's embarrassing. Well, while we're talking about him, I might as well mention that this video is sponsored by Raycon. You've probably seen countless Raycon ads in other videos. Why listen to me? Well, while the other guys are just gonna tell you about their earbuds' phenomenal sound in an itty-bitty living space, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. They do more than just earbuds. Over-ear headphones, speakers, charge cables. They even have a faucet filter. Like, it filters water straight out of the tap. You just put it over the stainless steel and boom! Wait, steel? Like the movie Ray J is in? Wow! I got some Raycon everyday earbuds to try out, and honestly, they sound really nice. I had an older pair from a different brand, and there's no comparison. They sound better, they fit more comfortably, and my favorite part, weirdly enough, is the little charging case. It comes with a loop, so I can hang it on my key hooks, and the case's surface is this kind of grippy texture that makes it feel more secure in my hand, like I'm not just gonna instantly drop them. It's the little things. If you're looking for last-minute holiday gifts, I'd highly recommend checking out their catalog, and there's limited-time bundles going on right now with free shipping and free returns available. Just look at these 180-degree charge cords. That's so cool. The amount of twisted-up charge cords in my house is ridiculous, so I know where I'm going next. So this holiday season, get premium audio and power tech at a great price, and save even more while doing it. Go to buyraycon.com/watchtower to get 15% off site-wide, and hey, it helps support us. Link is in the description. Now, time for a Christmas classic.
It's hammer time.
Will it Santa? That is the question. Old Kris Kringle has been appearing in DC comic books going all the way back to 1940 during the medium's golden age, where everything was much, I don't know, cheerier, nicer.
Merry and bright.
He was originally portrayed as you'd probably expect. The hat, the beard, the North Pole toy factory, the elves, you get it. Simple plots where some dastardly bad guy would want to steal his stuff or audit his tax records or whatever. Superman would then step in and be like, hey, don't, and then fly the sleigh and the story would be over. But Santa has continued to make sporadic and admittedly chaotic appearances in DC books throughout the decades since, showing up nearly 100 times. Everything from existing in a dreamscape plane of existence alongside Neil Gaiman's Sandman, to kicking Demon Lord butt with the Justice League, to even being evil and getting brutally murdered by Lobo twice. And that wasn't even his most recent appearance by far. In fact, he's set to show up this month in Batman Santa Claus Silent Night with a K. With the help of his former student Batman, Santa will team up with the heroes of the DC universe. Wait, Batman trained with Santa? I suppose that explains.
He laughs.
There's even precedent for Santa to exist in on-screen DC properties, like in the Smallville episode Lexmas, where Clark meets a sad and disappointed Santa Claus. And he's a many times over recurring antagonist in the Teen Titans Go cartoon. I'd say that's weird, but have you watched Teen Titans Go?
Oh, dude, this is agony.
I rest my case, but we're talking specifically about the DC animated universe, the one co-created by Bruce Timm that ran from 1992's Batman the Animated Series through the conclusion of Justice League Unlimited in 2006, give or take a few movies and comics in the time since. Is Santa real here? Almost every one of these shows had a holiday special or multiple, like that Justice League one I showed a clip from up top, so it would stand to reason that those would be the most obvious place to look for answers. The very first was BTAS's second produced episode, Christmas with the Joker, where we get this very creepy Santa Claus float. Oh, wait, no.
This time, he's going total tank.
And the famous Mark Hamill rendition of
Jingle bells, Batman smelt, Robin laid an egg.
But besides Santa Tank and a bell ringer, and Joker's henchman being named after Donner and Blitzen, there's no actual Santa in this episode. Not even a classic, cheeky, silhouetted, ho ho ho, Mary, I'm flying away into the distance now. Holiday Nights from the new Batman Adventures has another bell ringer, and of course Detective Bullock dressed as the guy.
Shoot the Santa!
You wouldn't.
Static Shock had a holiday episode, though it was more Hanukkah or just winter season in general themed than anything, and not even a glimpse of Santa. Oh, wait a second, it's just another bell ringer. Yes, hello to you too. There's a handful of episodes across everything that take place in a snowy setting or time of year, but none of them pause to be like, look, Christmas! So far it's seeming like Mr. Claus is just a fictional character inside this fictional universe. But then, of course, there's Justice League's holiday special, Comfort and Joy. Yes, we get this memorable moment where the Kents say they always had to wrap Clark's presents in lead foil so he couldn't use his X-ray vision to peek, and he's all, you mean Santa wrapped them? Now, yeah, this is meant to be a comedic, wholesome little moment. Surely Superman doesn't actually believe in Santa, especially at age 30 whatever he is in this series. But don't call me Shirley, and if you think about it, Clark didn't start truly developing his powers until he was a teenager. We see him explaining his newfound X-ray vision to Lana Lang in his show's premiere episode. Did Superman really believe in Santa all the way through when he was in high school? Does he still believe in Santa? I'm just saying, that look on his face seems pretty genuine. Wait, maybe Superman's reaction is all a ruse because he is Santa. Think about it. Name starts with an S, wears a red outfit, has a base in the Arctic.
Well, Lois, the truth is, I'm actually
Santa Claus. How else could Santa travel the world in one night unless he had super speed? But no, Santa's been a myth, if you will, for far longer than Clark Kent's time on this planet. I do want to see what Bizarro Santa looks like. Though come to think of it, there's already precedent for the existence of all sorts of otherwise mythical beings in the DCAU. On several occasions, the ancient Greek gods have either been mentioned or literally appeared on screen, including Hades, Ares, Hephaestus, Hermes, Poseidon, and even the likes of Circe or Medusa. And much like Santa, we've had plenty of prior references to them before they waltzed in like, yeah, been here the whole time, buddy. Like Maxie Zeus thinking he was really Zeus, or Poison Ivy calling herself Demeter in the BTAS episode with those delicious looking little green cookies. Oh my god, I would pretend to be Santa all year if I could just eat a couple of those. But like, no, these gods turn out to be just real. Ancient Egyptian gods just come back from the dead. There's old gods and new gods and bears, oh my! And we've even got folks like Mr. Mixia Spitlick, an imp from the 5th dimension who claims to be responsible for the spread of folklore of genies and leprechauns, and uses interdimensional magic, is able to hop realities. I ask again, is it really that much of a stretch to assume that this guy is real? While trying to build a focused hypothesis here and scouring the internet for any and all appearances of Santa in the world of DC, it turns out that he, unsurprisingly, is real in the Looney Tunes universe, which, if you've tuned into our videos about the DCAU's multiverse, you'll know exists within arm's reach of our beloved Batman the Animated Series and company on the multiversal family tree. Santa appears in an issue of the 90s Animaniacs comic, whizzing past Wacko and Howard Stern, like, don't worry about it, as they climb a radio tower. And he's a full-blown main character in an issue of the Looney Tunes series from a couple years later, where Bugs and Daffy wind up at the North Pole, and Daffy convinces the elves to unionize and go on strike. Hot strike winter! Santa accidentally gets knocked out cold, so they have to deliver presents to the world all on their own, and they even wind up at the DC offices by the end for a Christmas party. But the Clausian Multiverse connection I found most interesting? These Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer comics. Little wacky, inconsequential stories about Rudolph and his friends, which of course includes Santa Claus, published by DC one issue every December from 1950 to 1962. Why do these matter, you ask? Well, after 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths, in which DC's broad and horrific to keep track of continuity became narrowed down to just a single new Earth, we eventually got a compendium that labeled every other Earth involved in the cataclysmic event with an Earth number, a designation for each parallel reality in the broader DC multiverse. And these Rudolph comics were assigned Earth 12. Those of you who have followed this channel for a while or have at least paid close enough attention to DCAU comics continuity over the years will certainly recognize that Earth number, as today it is the designation for the Beyond comics, aka Batman Beyond, Superman Beyond, and Justice League Beyond. Now, okay, these aren't exactly the same Earth 12. The multiverse has been relabeled half a dozen times at this point. This original Earth 12 was inhabited by the superhero team the Inferior Five, composed of Merry Man, Awkward Man, Blimp, White Feather, and Dumb Bunny. But Earth 12 became kind of a catch-all for DC Comics stories deemed too silly or over the top for its mainline continuity, like such wonders as The Adventures of Bob Hope, one issue of which paired the comedian with Aquaman.
Who's Bob Hope?
Or Swing with Scooter, a 60s comic about a very Beatles-reminiscent young musician created to ride the high of Beatlemania. There was even The Adventures of Jerry Lewis, several issues of which saw team-ups with Batman and Robin, Superman, The Flash, or Wonder Woman in Scooby-Doo Meets style adventures. Along with those, the Rudolph comics, and a few others, this original Earth 12 was theoretically destroyed during the events of Koi, that's what us cool kids call it, and when DC rebooted its continuity yet again with The New 52, Earth 12 became this beyond world we know it as today. A much different vibe and intended continuity than Dumb Bunny. But as seen in DC's Convergence story, many, in fact most I'd say, of the New 52 Earths still match up with their old numbers in terms of the theme of that universe. Like, this one's still the crime syndicate, these guys are all still pirates, this one's still the Watchmen, Charlton characters, and so on. It's not impossible that the future set beyond era we see these days has a bit of a shared history. Since it's not quite the DCAU, it's not quite the mainstream DC canon, who's to say if we rewound time 40 or 50 years before now, whenever now is, that we wouldn't find ourselves faced with a modern-day Earth 12 Bob Hope or Jerry Lewis or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Freaking Reindeer. Today's Earth 12 and the DC animated universe exist on an extremely similar wavelength in the multiverse. And Santa is also a canonical character in Marvel Comics, which I understand might seem confusingly irrelevant if not for this 90s Christmas card featuring Santa and Doctor Doom, which was drawn by Ty Templeton, who you'll recognize as the artist and or writer on countless DCAU tie-in comics over the years, from the original Batman Adventures to the recent Batman The Adventures Continue, with pit stops almost everywhere else along the way. Ty's familiar Tim-esque art style permeates this comic like the aroma of a warm, mouth-watering Christmas Eve ham. And so, Santa, who is a real person in a rather DCAU-looking Marvel world, remember, reality-hopping imps are canon, and is a real person in the Looney Tunes continuity, and is a real person on Earth 12, is at least vibrating within cosmic inches of our beloved Timverse. But where? Batman and Robin Adventures number 3 has Santa. Wait, no, that's just Riddler in disguise. Ooh, JLU number 28 has Santa. Fuck, it's Clayface. There's the BTAC segment in 'Tis the Season to Be Freezin' from a couple years ago, which features a toy shop owner who looks a heck of a lot like the Toy Man's dad seen in Superman the Animated Series. And while the timeline wouldn't allow them to be the same guy, they could be if they were both Santa. But nah, the Toy Man can't be Santa's son. Superman and Santa teamed up against Toy Man in the 80s, and Santa didn't have any kids.
Oh, wait. I did.
Wow, it's a Christmas miracle. This person right here won our latest giveaway. We've replied to your original comment with some instructions, so go check that out. Next giveaway is this stuff, and all you gotta do to enter is leave a comment answering our question of the day from the end of this video. We'll pick a random winner and announce it next month. Also, we've got a holiday sale going on right now on our merch store linked below. 15% off everything if you use code DCAUL. And that includes the shirts that were limited time earlier this year, like that Barry Allen one, as well as this new guy. So go gift hunting or treat yourself. Okay, back to the video. You know Harley Quinn? Yeah, of course you do. She's apparently DC's 4th most popular character after Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, like a 4th member of the Trinity, or the Quadrinity? Well, in 1999, Harley's co-creator Paul Dini co-created another madcap madame that you may never have heard of, Jingle Belle. Like Belle, like a pretty girl. It's a play on words, you see.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, kid.
In this continuity, Jingle Belle is Santa's daughter, Claus's offspring.
The spawn of his loins.
The character and her world are fun, unhinged, and, well, Christmassy as heck. Dini was influenced by the old classic Rankin Bass stop-motion Christmas specials, childhood favorites of his, for the world of Jingle Belle, with her even appearing in that style a couple times in her comics. But if you're expecting a Will It Canon video on the RBAU, or Rankin Bass Animated Universe, as we've just coined, no takebacks, patent pending, don't hold your breath. Unless that's something you Want? Do you want that? Jingle Belle operates in the North Pole with sarcastic toy-making elves, narwhals, lemmings, and all sorts of other critters.
Now that's party.
Santa Pa here is a real dude, a rather neglectful and disrespectful dude, but still, despite being the daughter of Santa, Jingle Belle always winds up on the naughty list and rather melodramatically sees herself as a secret embarrassment to the legend of Santa or the holiday in general. Her relationship with her father is definitely strained, but it makes for some very captivating stories. Dad, you ask every kid in the world to believe in you. Well, can't you believe in me too? Yowza. Talk about your seasonal depression. But we all know Deanie's original female DCAU characters are always a perfect blend of tortured and lovable. Half the best villainesses in the animated universe came out of his head, like Livewire, Roxy Rocket, Baby Doll, Doris Smithy, you know, the girl who looks and sounds like Killer Frost but probably isn't Killer Frost. But hey, Snow! Congruity! And of course, the ladies of the Wonderland Gang, a group which he created for the mainstream comics but eventually brought into the DCAU via The Adventures Continue. So it's no stretch of the imagination to picture Jingle Belle as yet another wily, sprightly Deanie girl who could fit right alongside the others. Like she might as well be packaged in this bendable figures set I have, where 3 out of 5 are already Deanie creations. Toss Catwoman out of there and give me Case and Piliad's Tim-style Jingle Belle stat. Now, yeah, Jingle Belle isn't a DC character, but rather appeared sporadically across Oni Press, Dark Horse, Top Cow, and finally IDW. But come on, most of these publishers have had their titles cross over with DC in the past, like Dark Horse's various random DC superhero versus Predator comics, or if you like Turtles, IDW's notable Batman TMNT team-ups, which even once revolved around the BTAS Batman and Bat-Fam. Paul Dini even speculated on a comicbook.com interview about a possible Harley crossover in the future, teasing a Harley Quinn and Jingle Belle wreck Christmas that he'd absolutely do if DC was open to it. Jingle Belle and DC are so adjacent as it is. Her comics reference Zatanna, Batman merchandise shows up, not unlike the kind you can find in our merch store, holiday sale going on now, wink wink link below. There's Martians running around that look like brain butts, but listen, Jean could look like a brain butt if he wanted to. And I mean, the Polar Bar is basically the same thing as the Iceberg Lounge, prove me wrong. Jingle Belle employs giant hammers and baseball bats as her weapons of choice. She's very open and free with her sexuality, though luckily only has one single butt. At one point she gets caught shoplifting at the mall. She keeps various wild animals as pets. Krampus was referred to in her comic as Mr. K. She even has a friend named Donna Margarita Agavita Inebriada Mezcal, say that one time at any speed, who is a plant girl with poison kisses. So, you hear me, DC? All you'd really have to do to get these bonkers babes together is to get the Krang to open up another multiverse portal, right? But for the love of Chrysler, have we seen an appearance of the Santa Claus in the DCAU? Not a potential crossover, not an adjacent continuity, not an adventure of Jerry friggin' Lewis. Well, enter the DCU Holiday Bash. DC has published, at the moment, 3 issues of this Christmas anthology series. One in 1997, one in 1998, and one in, say it with me, 1999. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. 1998's Holiday Bash brought us Present Tense, also written and drawn by Ty Templeton. This story is only 2 pages and, much like a Christmas Eve storybook, deserves to be read to you in real time.
You bring news?
Please don't kill me, Great Darkseid. He has gotten past all the perimeter defenses. Thank you for sparing my life. Satellites disabled. Flying parademons helpless. Ground forces and air missiles are ineffective. He's here.
On the planet's surface? So easily?
No, Great Darkseid. In this room.
You're making it tougher to get here each Christmas, I'll give you that.
But we each have our duties to perform, young fella, and I have to go about mine. Oh, definitely naughty. It's a lump of coal for you again.
Do not let him leave here alive.
Oops, gotta go. See you next year. Ho, 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 ho. You very well may have at least heard of, seen in passing, or even, heaven forbid, read past tense before. Claus Almighty is right there in the bowl full of jelly flesh, hilariously yanking Darkseid's apocalyptian chain and getting away with it every time. And as you may have noticed, the Darkseid in this comic looks strikingly similar to the one we see in STAS and Justice League. You can almost hear Michael Ironside's voice booming out of him. I did a horrible impression. Side note, Michael Ironside was the Grand Marshal for a historical summer parade in my hometown in 2013, but I was on drum corps tour, so I didn't get to meet Darkseid, and I will literally be upset about this for the rest of my life. I wasn't even marching. I was just doing video stuff, and it was bad. It was a bad time. Darkseid was breathing my air, and I wasn't there. It wasn't until I contacted Ty to ask more about this comic that I learned Present Tense is actually a sequel to another 2-page holiday story he created called Satan's Little Helper and featured Etrigan the Demon. Ooh, how timely! You should watch our Etrigan video we did for Halloween or something. I won't read this one because it's way darker and this is a time for merriment and glee, but in summary, there's a clearly deranged man performing a satanic ritual that summons the demon Etrigan, who holds a small magical gateway in his hands from which the man may pull anything he desires in exchange for his eternal soul. But he is interrupted by his young daughter, who instantly wishes for a Batman doll, wasting the man's wish and cursing him to hell. It is devilishly funny in its own way too. Ty, you madman! But just look at Etrigan. Much like Darkseid, he's very similar to how we see him in the DCAU, no? While Santa himself doesn't appear in this one, they're connected. They canon to one another. And to the DCAU, they're so similar that they might as well be sort of lost tales from the animated series, right? I mean, just look at that Batman doll. That's B-Tass Batman. His merch rights are all up in this. Well, not the DCAU in my mind. You can tell by the way I drew Santa, he's not an animated look in that strip. Very scratchy inking. Darkseid looks more animated or more cartoony, if you will, because my iconic image of Darkseid is by Kirby and Royer, who gave him very simplified features for the most part. Which makes sense. After all, Bruce Timm's own style takes heavy cues from Jack Kirby's, and Kirby's sense of design was a huge influence on the look of the animated universe. It's no wonder Darkseid and Etrigan look like they could have stepped right out of either or. These stories were meant to be part of Kirby's fourth world, not the DCAU. Although they do sort of intersect. So if you want to include it in the world of the DCAU, who am I to say no? I can't accurately count battering points. What do I know? Ty, for goodness sake. The battering spikes bit was years ago. It was never serious. You're the guy. You know everything. You're watching this video right now, I'm sure of it. You see it all. You know if we've been bad or... Oh my God. It was right in front of me all along. I was never going to prove that Santa is in the DCAU because he isn't. He makes the DCAU. Santa, the idea of Santa, bringing joy and happiness to all the children of the world and those of us who are still children in grown-ups' bodies, it makes sense. Templeton comes from Temple Settlement, places where the Templars formed their religious houses in the medieval era. There's got to be some kind of St. Nicholas connection jumbled up inside of there. Ty's biography on his website even reads, "There is a short entry about Ty Templeton in Wikipedia. However, it wasn't written by Ty or a relative, and it gets his birth date slightly wrong. Ty was actually born in 1962. For many sound and easily understood reasons, he long ago decided that the year between both of his 24th birthdays didn't count morally or legally, and so considers himself as having missed a year in his age. He feels it's the same as not counting those years he spent frozen in a block of ice and worshipped by the noble Eskimo people of the North." He's the guy. Always has been. But really, I mean, in the spirit of the season, our sincere thanks and appreciation know no bounds toward Mr. Templeton. The dude has been through half a dozen health hurdles these past couple of years, not the least of which was beating cancer. We wouldn't have half the amazing DCAU stories or topics for videos that we do without him. His work in and out of the BTAS world is boundless, a living legend. Thank you for everything, Ty. Please never stop. Batarangs can have as many spikes as you want them to. Hell, give him 20 spikes. I don't even care. Okay, maybe not 20. That's way too much, Ty. Don't do 20. There's like 5 maximum, okay? Come on, man. But I think that's really what it comes down to. It's okay that there's no obvious Santa in the DCAU, because the real Santa was the Ty Templeton we made along the way, or something like that. Santa is always whatever we need him to be. He's jolly, or he's a Nordic badass, or he's sliced up by Space Gene Simmons, or he's a beloved comic book author. But what he isn't is not real. But I heard him exclaim with a deafening shout, "Happy Christmas to all! Ty the guy, out!" For my question of the day, I just want to know, what do you want for insert celebrated winter holiday here? Ty will be checking out the comments, I bet, so make sure he knows what to shove down your chimney this season. The Jingle Belle omnibus? I gotta get me some more. Harley Quinn, but if she was an elf. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring. Happy holidays to all, and thank you all so much for an awesome 2023. Here's to the new year. Also, Jean hopping on the roof was probably a pretty dick move. Those cookies were for Santa, Jean.